In chess, becoming world champion is supposed to make you a legend. Your name becomes famous around the world. Fans study your games. Your victories become part of chess history. But when Liren became world chess champion in 2023, many casual chess fans had one question. Who is Liren? For years, the chess world knew names like Magnus Carlsen, Hikaru Nakamura, and Fabiano Caruana. They were the superstars, the players with millions of fans watching their games. But Ding was different. He was quiet. He rarely searched for attention. He wasn't a player who became famous because of his personality. He became famous because of what happened on the chessboard. In 2023, after a dramatic world championship match against Ian Nepomniachtchi, Liren made history. He became the first Chinese male player to become world chess champion. But his journey to the top was far from easy. So how did a quiet grandmaster from China, a player many people overlooked, become the strongest chess player in the world? This is the story of Liren. Liren was born on October 24, 1992, in Wenzhou, China. Like many chess legends, he discovered chess at a young age. But unlike some players who became famous as children, Ding's rise was slower. He quietly developed his skills, becoming one of China's strongest players. In 2009, at just 16 years old, Ding became the youngest Chinese chess champion at the time. Over the next several years, he built a reputation as an extremely difficult opponent. His style was not based on wild attacks or flashy sacrifices. Instead, Ding was known for his incredible calculation, deep understanding, and ability to defend difficult positions. Many players could create problems against him, but very few could actually defeat him. He became known as one of the most solid players in the world, a player who could survive almost anything. Ding was never the loudest player. He wasn't trying to become a celebrity. He was simply trying to become better. For years, the chess world had one dominant name, Magnus Carlsen. Carlsen became world champion in 2013 and defended his title multiple times. Many expected him to continue dominating chess for years. But in 2022, Magnus announced something nobody expected. He would not defend his world championship title. After almost 10 years as champion, the crown was suddenly available. The chess world needed a new king. The players fighting for the title would come from the candidates tournament. And somehow, Liren would find himself in that race. But there was a problem. He almost didn't even qualify. Ding's path to the world championship was one of the strangest in chess history. Normally, qualifying for the candidates tournament requires years of preparation and competition. But Ding faced a huge obstacle. Because of travel restrictions and limited tournament opportunities, he had not played enough classical games to meet the qualification requirements. It looked like his chance might disappear. But the Chinese Chess Federation helped organize enough games for Ding to meet the requirement. Suddenly, the impossible became possible. Ding wasn't just fighting against other grandmasters. He was fighting just to get the opportunity. And after everything, he finally earned his place. The quiet player from China was entering the biggest tournament of his life. When the tournament began in Madrid in 2022, Ding did not immediately look like a future world championship challenger. He started with several draws. And in a tournament where every half-point matters, falling behind early can be dangerous. But this was also where Ding's greatest strength appeared. He stayed calm. Ding was not the type of player who needed to win every game. He understood that the candidates is a marathon, not a sprint. While other players were taking huge risks, Ding continued playing solid chess and waiting for his chances. The tournament featured some of the greatest players of the generation. Ian Nepomniachtchi, who had already challenged Magnus Carlsen for the world championship. Fabiano Caruana, a former world championship challenger. Hikaru Nakamura, one of the strongest rapid and blitz players in history. Ali Reza Firouzja, considered one of the biggest young talents in chess. Every round was a test. But Ding showed why he was considered one of the most complete players in the world. He could defend worse positions. He could calculate complicated moments. And when the opportunity appeared, he could strike. One of Ding's biggest moments came against Fabiano Caruana. In a difficult tournament, beating a direct rival can completely change the standings. Ding showed his incredible fighting ability and proved he could defeat the very best when the pressure was highest. As the tournament entered the final rounds, the race became extremely close. Nepomniachtchi was leading. Behind him, Ding and Nakamura were fighting for the remaining spots. Every single game mattered. When the final round ended, Ian Nepomniachtchi finished first. Ding Liren finished second. That second-place finish was enough. He had done it. The player who almost missed the tournament had earned the right to challenge for the World Championship. It was one of the strangest journeys to a title match in chess history. Ding did not qualify by dominating everyone. He qualified through patience, consistency, and surviving the hardest tournament in chess. The quiet player from China was now standing at the doorstep of becoming world champion. The 2023 World Championship match was one of the most dramatic in recent history. Neither player was Magnus Carlsen. There was a feeling that a new era of chess was beginning. But both players had something to prove. Nepomniachtchi started strongly. He took the lead and looked like he might become the next world champion. But Ding refused to collapse. Game after game, the pressure increased. Both players showed incredible skill. They also showed something every human player experiences: pressure. Even the best players in the world make mistakes when everything is on the line. The match became a psychological battle. Who could handle the stress? Who could stay focused? Eventually, after 14 classical games, the match was tied. Everything came down to rapid tiebreaks. One final battle, one final chance. The rapid tiebreaks would decide everything. For Ding Liren, this was the biggest moment of his career. One game could decide whether he became world champion or lost his chance forever. The game begins with pawn e4, pawn e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, the classic Spanish/Ruy Lopez. Instead of the Berlin, knight f6, black chooses the more common pawn a6, forcing white to decide whether to retreat or take on c6. And like any self-respecting Spanish player, white refuses to take on c6 because that structure is a war crime. After bishop a4, knight f6, black hits the e4 pawn. White calmly castles. Black plays bishop e7, and white responds with pawn d3, keeping the position flexible, unlike your ex. The game continues with typical Spanish moves: pawn b5, bishop b3, pawn d6, pawn a4, bishop d7, pawn h3, stopping bishop g4 ideas. Black castles. White plays bishop e3, black jumps knight a5, and white slides the bishop back to bishop a2. Because in the Spanish you never trade that bishop unless your house is on fire. Black plays pawn backs a4, entering a line both players clearly know. Previously white played bishop d2 here, but this time he chooses knight c3. Black answers rook b8, and white plays the mysterious bishop b1, a move that looks like it was invented by a drunk engine, but Stockfish swears it's gospel. The idea? White wants to eventually take on a4 with knight a4, then recapture on a4 with the bishop or rook, and later return the bishop to a2. It's convoluted, but it does work, unless black plays queen e8, which he does, stopping the plan. White plays pawn b3, and black can't take because it would hang a knight. So black goes pawn c5, and now knight a4 works. Black retreats the knight to knight c6, a very standard Spanish maneuver, and white plays knight c3, though engines prefer pawn c3 first. Black pushes pawn a5, securing the pawn. White plays knight d2, heading for c4 to pressure that pawn. Black plays bishop e6, preparing the thematic pawn d5 break. Trades happen. In the resulting position, white should trade knights and play pawn c3 to open the bishop's scope, but instead he plays bishop d2. Black trades anyway, and after bishop c4, white faces a choice. Pawn dx-c4, opening the bishop but blocked by the rook on b8, or pawn bx-c4, taking toward the center. White chooses pawn bx-c4, keeping central tension. Both sides maneuver until move 23, when white finally plays pawn c3. Black immediately hits back with pawn f5, starting kingside aggression. White plays rook e1, but bishop c2 was stronger, preparing bishop a4 later. Black plays rook d8, both sides regroup, and black's big idea appears. Queen d6, preparing pawn e5, e4. White answers with pawn g3, black plays rook e8. White steps the queen to queen f3, and black finally pushes pawn e4. After pawn fx 4, knight e5, queen g2, the knights and bishops get traded off. The game drifts into an equal endgame until move 48, when white blunders with pawn h4, allowing queen d3. White survives and equalizes again, But on move 59, queen c7 ends the dream. Black will push the pawns, make a queen, and the Spanish tragedy concludes. Nepomniachtchi could not recover. After years of hard work, after the struggles, after almost missing the candidates tournament, Ding Liren became world champion. The quiet player from China had reached the highest point in chess. He had made history. But becoming world champion does not make life easier. Sometimes, it creates even more pressure. Ding suddenly carried the weight of an entire country and the expectations of chess fans around the world. After winning the title, Ding struggled with his form. He took time away from chess and faced the challenges of being champion. Because behind every title is a human being. Ding was never a player who wanted fame. He was a player who loved the game. And even after reaching the top, he continued searching for improvement. Ding Liren's story is different from many chess legends. He wasn't the loudest. He wasn't the most famous. He wasn't always the player people talked about. But when his moment arrived, he was ready. His journey shows that greatness does not always come with attention. Sometimes it comes quietly. Sometimes the players nobody expects are the ones who make history. Ding Liren went from being overlooked to becoming world champion. So the question remains, was Ding Liren one of chess' greatest surprises? Or was he a champion who was waiting to be discovered all along?